Space, the boundary of human achievement, the new frontier.
It's just a coffin.
Yeah, right. And the Earth is flat.
In a few moments, you will have an experience which will seem completely real. It can be extremely harmful and result in severe trauma. You have 5 seconds to terminate this tape. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Flat Earth expert Mark Sargent thinks the moon landing was a hoax.
Technically, the moon itself is a hoax.
Right, but betting with Sportsbet's new iPhone app?
I could do this standing on my head.
Thanks, Gravity. Sportsbet's new iPhone app. It's
Hold on,
foolproof.
I know how we're different. Do you believe the Earth is flat?
I know it's flat. I walk on it.
Holy sh**.
Do you think the Earth is flat, Snoop? What do you think?
It's a flat world after all.
Smoke weed every day.
Mark, the music's not playing.
Are you serious? Are you sure? How about now? Was it playing when I switch over? Tell me if I lose the music.
Okay. Broadcasting straight to you from a large spaceship currently at war with mainstream science. Meanwhile, the Peanut Gallery is saying goodbye in 2024. Time to take a deep breath and prepare for the new year of 2025, which is a repeat of 24, which was a repeat of 2023, which is a repeat of, well, you get it. There's nothing new under the sun. I agree with some of what Peanut said, and some of it I do not. I think that 2025 is going to be a banner year. You guys wait, because if it's ending the way it's ending now, oh my Lord. Welcome to Strange World, where the truth is often stranger in fiction. I'm your host, Mark Sargent, the creator of Flat Earth Clues, which propose that all of us are living inside a Truman Show enclosed structure thousands of miles wide. Just Google Flat Earth Mark. If you can't find it, well, you're just not very good at the internet. Currently, the show is on Tuesday nights at 7 Pacific, 10 Eastern. And yes, Caroline, if it's not December 31st, the last day of 2024, then you are listening to a rerun. Let's see here. Oh yeah, and by the way, real quick reminder to you guys, I know I had to shoehorn this in. There's going to be a special Strange World this Friday. So in 3 days, we're going to do another Strange World with channel Brian's Logic from the UK. And that'll be really, really fun. Don't forget the show can be found on BitChute and Brighty. I'll remind you guys at the end of the show. Don't forget the show can be found on BitChute and Brighty, on Rockfin and Rumble and Spotify. YouTube is not the end of Flat Earth. It is just the beginning. Quote of the day goes exactly like this. Don't be the echo, be the sound. Who said that? Well, me. It's a variation, it's not an absolutely brand new term, but it's been out there in different forms, but that's the one I came up with. So I know it kind of sounds like a Bruce Lee quote, but whatever, I'm taking it. My co-hosts are, in the upper left, the image of Patricia Steere, who has a headache and will not be here tonight. The perfect Patricia Steere, by the way. In the upper right, the always delightful DJ Curious, and in the lower right, the man of the hour, Marty Leeds. How are you, Marty?
Unmuted. That's how I am.
Unmuted, which is fine. Good. And we will come back to you. Marty's going to be with us for the duration, and I'm so glad he's here because we have a lot to talk about. Let's see here.
Yes, welcome, Marty. Thanks for being here.
Thank you. Sometimes it's hard to find Flat Earth friends. Is there an easy way to find cool people like yourself and solid info about our stationary horizontal level plane? Yeah, there is. The solution is simple. It's the Flat Earth Sun, Moon, and Zodiac Clock app. Watch the featured video every day for 2 weeks to see what happens. It'll be the best $2.99 you've ever spent. So sleepy. And because it's 10 p.m. on the East Coast, it's time to say goodnight to one of our listeners, Paige. She's just put on her Arabian Nights pajamas, got a cup of cocoa with exactly 6 tiny marshmallows, and we'll probably listen to the playback in the morning. Good night, Paige.
Good night, Paige.
Shout-outs, obviously, to Flat Earther Stephen Carpenter, the Deftones. Support the Flat Earth cause and get the coolest hoodies ever. Go to the Strong.family, won't you, and pick up some merch. Just so you guys know, because tomorrow's January 1st, the Deftones will start their North American tour at the end of February, and I'm going to put the promo on my channel tomorrow, and I will be running it. I will be bookending the show with it pretty much every episode until the tour is done. So it's going to be really fun. We're going to have Stefan on the show the week before he takes off. I think it's to the Bay Area, and then the second show is up in Seattle. I'm going to be seeing him up there, and he's going to run to other people. So it'll be fun. Again, support one of the few outed Flat Earth celebrities, and he's also a rock star. Go figure. That'll be kind of fun. Mailbag. Got a letter. I love it when people send me snail mail. This is from Krista Orman. She sent it to all of us, DJ, believe it or not.
Oh,
and
cool.
It is Flat Earth related. Mark, Patricia, and DJ, yours from Krista, and to Mark. Yeah. And Mark? To Mark. Doesn't really matter. It's a National Geographic magazine from 1953. And you're saying, why would she send such a thing? Well, because it's got an article in it. Aviation looks ahead on its 50th birthday, and there is a Flat Earth map, or otherwise known as an AE map, on the inside of this thing. So that was kind of fun.
Oh, nice.
So I will... Yeah, so I got this afternoon, and I will look into it more when I get a chance, but I've been kind of busy today.
Well, thank you, Krista. She's been very sweet, so supportive, and I appreciate you.
Yes, love Krista. Also, meetups. Real quick, there's 2 of them on the board right now. There is another meetup in Minnesota, January 25th. And there's going to the Flat Earth social meetups over in the UK, which are usually in the West UK. They branched off and they're doing another group which is in Wales, in the UK. And if you don't know where Wales is, look it up because I forgot where it is too. For me, it's just all the same thing. And I know I'm supposed not to insult them, but Scotland, Ireland, it's all really the same thing, isn't it? No, I'm kidding. They'll kill me if I say that. Yeah. And oh my God, I really shouldn't say that because Brian from Brian's Logic's going to come on in a few days. Oh my God, he's Irish. Brian, I am so sorry. You know what? I take that all back. Scotland, Ireland, completely. Ireland's top in my books. There you go. And before we run the clip really fast, because I made a little 60-second clip called Unity because of all that's happening. Well, on top of that, one of the reasons Marty's here is we shouldn't be mending fences, guys, because we shouldn't be fighting, but here we are. With that being said, I'd like to do a quick retraction. This isn't an apology in any way, because last week I said that every OG Flat Earth content creator were behind the team that went down to Antarctica. The UK group with Nathan Oakley wanted to stress that he was not, he should be considered OG. And in fact, it was one of Nathan's people, and I'm not going to name him. And wanted to make sure that it's like, no, we're not, we're not in their camp. So you guys can be all friendly and happy all you want, but we're raging over here. And it's great. That's Nathan's role. That's what he does. He attacks and does it well, attacks a lot of people all the time. So yeah, there you go. So I stand corrected. Not all OG creators are with the team that went down to Antarctica. There we go. Good. Everybody good?
Damage
Don't
control
yell.
all around, no matter what we say. Be careful.
I know. I like, and I wasn't leaving you out. I don't consider you guys, just so you're over there, really. I mean, yes, you're OG, but you're more debaters than you are content creators. I mean, that's really what it is. I mean, it's a big debate forum, which I don't think is an insult in any way. You guys do good work. Okay, let me run the 60-second Unity clip. Change your life, and then we'll get Marty on to talk about whatever. Ready? Here we go. What happens when I hit this button? So my flat earth friends message me, say, Mark, what's with all the infighting? Well, let me make my stance on this very clear. I've been doing content creation in our community for 10 years, and I've never seen anyone, and I do mean anyone, that qualifies as an actual shill. Don't confuse a shill with someone who takes a step back from the spotlight. This isn't the first time. How do I know this? Reasons. First and foremost is that there are no FE breakout channels. I talked about this during my Vegas speech. The highest count is ODD Reality with, 300k subs? All the other creators who have made it to the speaker stage have lower numbers. An actual shill would have sold out. They would have a massive uptick in subs, hits, likes, would be treated gently by mainstream, and social media would rarely condemn them. Show me a single person in the last decade who is living large in flat earth, and maybe we have something to talk about. I know that the truther community is naturally suspicious and we question everything. I get that. Remember the basics. Innocent until proven guilty. United we stand, divided, blah, blah, blah. The point is, they're fine, you're fine, we're all fine. Do your own research and stop fighting. We still have work to do. Whatever. I'm done. All right, there you go. 60 seconds. That should be it. Good night, everybody. I do want to clarify really fast when it comes to that video. I don't know what Marty's stance is. He and I don't talk that often, but we're going to be talking tonight. Which is, I do not believe. Again, I've been doing this for 10 years. Marty, just only slightly less. And I do not believe. I have never ever thought that anyone was an actual shill in flat Earth. I've never looked at somebody and said, oh, they're obviously a government operative. Never has ever happened. The one great thing about the internet is everything's date stamped. And so you know when the content creators came on, you know their body of work, you know what they've done. There has been nobody that has broken out artificially from flat Earth. I have never ever seen it. Again, ODD Reality has 300k subs. Jaron is under 200. I'm under 200. David Weiss is under 200, and so on and so on. And because of that, it's like, where's the evidence that there's anyone that's an actual shill? That's what I kind of want to open with. It's like, nobody's broken out, gotten 1 million subs, and got an endorsement, and got a find me a Flat Earth verified channel. Find me one. They won't give it to us. They've already told me. YouTube's already said, you will never be verified. It's like, oh, that's great. Really, really love it. And you'll never be monetized either. Oh, thanks. Appreciate it. So there you go. And so the lashing out at the Antarctica people, I think it's silly. I understand it. I get it. Look, I've been telling people for 10 years, question everything. I do mean everything, but at the same time, you don't have to put the same level of enthusiasm as you do with our trolls, with our own people. But then again, that's it. Anyway, I'd like to introduce the man for tonight. The guy that's been around. He first showed up on my radar with the litmus test back in the day. The video that all of a sudden came out of nowhere. It's like, who's this guy? And it was extremely well done, and I loved the intro, and I loved the way your mind works. I love the breakdown that you laid out there, and then we got a chance to meet at one of the Flatoberfests, I think 2-3 years ago, down in one of Karen's Flatoberfests, and it is great. He's absolutely as advertised. So, Marty Leeds, everybody, how are you?
Hey, thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
Yes,
when did we
welcome.
meet? Like 2022, I want to say.
Yeah.
Something like
I think
that?
so.
Okay.
Yeah, we met in the back lobby. You were back there doing stuff, and then you were doing your presentation, and it was awesome. It's like, oh wow, I'm glad that Karen brought you down. That was good.
Yeah, it's so crazy because so many people over the years are like, oh, this person's a shill. And whenever I go into like those conferences and things like that, that's always on my mind. And then when I meet people, I always try to do an assessment, And so people had said, oh, Sargent's a shill or whatever it is, right? And it's like, okay, then I meet you and I'm like, I mean, I don't take offense to this dude, but I'm like, Mark's just a geek, dude. He's not a fucking CIA agent. He's just like me. He's just a nerd. You know what I mean? Like,
right.
Like, when I met Jaron, I'm like, because immediately I'm like, I put my little antennas out to see, are these people legitimate and that sort of thing. I met Jaron, I was like, it's just a dude. He's just a dude. Like I can't stand, and it's been going on for a long time, the whole shill talk without sufficient evidence to absolutely prove that somebody is in bed with the government or paid or out there to be a COINTELPRO. That stuff is thrown around way too loosely. And I just put a video out basically talking about that on the channel. That was the last video I just posted today, basically saying like, look, people have said things like that about all sorts of people for years, but have they brought any evidence out? Like if the evidence that people are saying about like Austin right now is him because they think it's some vape exhale or something, if you think that out of everything that Austin's done, you're going to take this and this and this, and next thing you know, just throw him under the bus, I think it says everything about your own morality. It's just that simple. I think it's lacking. So
super refreshing to hear. Thank you. It's great to get to know you and nice to meet you. Oh.
Hey, before we start, DJ, there's a little. I don't know if that's crackling or if it's the Marty, or is it rubbing on something? What? Peanut? What? I'm watching it now.
It might be Marty's picking up a little bit of movement on your headphones. Are you talking through your?
No. I can.
When he's.
Is it rubbing against your shirt?
I think it's rubbing on something.
Actually, I'm going to unplug this mic and tell me how it is. Okay.
Okay.
Let me see if that's better. Check.
Go ahead and.
Check 1 2.
Is the little microphone dangling near your collar?
No.
Okay.
Can you hear?
You know what? You know what's interesting? When you unplugged it, nothing changed.
Mm-hmm.
That could have been it. Do me a quick favor. It's all right. Wait, the audience they'll forgive us. Plug it back in and go into Skype and change hit the little microphone drop down.
Mm-hmm.
And see what it's defaulting to. If it's defaulting to your laptop mic or your headset mic. You see anything there?
Wait a sec.
Because it doesn't sound electronic. It sounds like it's rubbing.
Yeah, I don't think.
To me, it's your headphones have a microphone.
Oh no, they don't.
They might right in the middle.
Hold on, I can switch headphones too. Let me try this.
Okay.
It's your headphones.
Oh, it's definitely his headphones.
They have a little microphone that's dangling in the middle.
Yep.
And it's rubbing against the collar. Okay. Sorry, guys.
And it might...
Technical difficulties.
Yeah, sorry.
It'd be strange world.
Is that better?
Perfect.
That's amazing.
That's absolutely perfect. All right.
Okay. Cool.
Take 2. If anyone thinks that Austin is doing whatever, go ahead.
Well, that was just the last video that I put out and the thing that I was so upset about seeing that sort of stuff over the years is that people have made those accusations about me, and I'm like, make them, go ahead, but you have to bring evidence to the table, and you have to bring a heap load of evidence to the table. Because you can't just go and be like, oh, I don't trust him here, there's a little incongruence here, a little anomaly here, and then use those very weak-ass data points to completely throw somebody under the bus, call them immoral, tell them their whole life is a sham or a fraud. That, to me, it goes way beyond anything about conversations about science or the shape of the earth and things like that. It gets straight into the concepts of morality, basically, about what I think is part of being a truther is about actually being better people. And I don't think there's anything good about people just wholesale going to make accusations about people, claiming that they're frauds or that they're guilty of, deceiving without, and I said it in the video, a Rocky Mountain worth of evidence. And I did the analogy to flat earth. We wouldn't come to flat earth if there was 1, 2, 3, 4 points here. No, we came to flat earth because we were forced to come to flat earth because the amount of evidence was so huge, so overwhelming, it just knocked us on our ass. We couldn't do anything about it. We had to go in front of our family and friends and be, made fun of and stuff like that, but we had to because we were forced to. And all I was saying is that when we look at this, the final experiment, do we have that much evidence to absolutely show without question or controversy that Austin and Jaron are shills and frauds? Abso-fucking-lutely not. And if you are taking that position right now and going on the offensive against these people, you need to do some serious re-examining of yourself. okay? Because that's not okay. And I'm all about question the hell out of it. Do it. Go 360 around this. Challenge everything. We should be doing that with everything. I'm not saying believe or whatever, but what I've seen right now with how people are acting is so immoral, so disgusting. It's not helping anything. And it just makes us, to be honest, look like a bunch of idiots. No getting around it.
Yeah, I mean, you bring up so many good points. You're like, sit back, wait, and let that mountain of evidence build, because either way, we're going to figure it out as time goes on. But we can't, you know, if you've said things and you're wrong. But that's the thing when it comes to flat Earth. There isn't an organized movement. There isn't a leader. There isn't a doctrine. So it comes with the territory that there are those extra skeptical people, which I think is what helps get the truth out. But waiting and not attacking some of the, you know, the most, like Austin Whitsitt has been doing so much heavy lifting for flat Earth for a while, and I just find that jumping on and saying he's a shill out of nowhere, when the day before that all happened, it was like, oh, Austin's just, you know, doing amazing work. So I just hope that, you know, we'll get to the bottom of the truth. But I do want to just kind of, before we get any further into the interview with Marty, Patricia really did send me some notes. So do you mind if I just kind of do a proper introduction for her? I'll try to do my best. But she said that you've been on the scene for 13 years. You've written several books. You're a creator of a documentary called Dear Wolfgang. And please correct me if I get any of this wrong, but you know, we will, as the show progresses, we'll introduce some other ways that our audience can find things that you've done, such as the gnosticacademy.org, and just getting into more of those details. But we're really excited to have you, Marty, and for being a voice of reason, just because if it comes out that these guys really did go there, then what are all these people that are saying they're shills and fakes and all this stuff? Are they going to apologize? I mean, we don't really know. It just doesn't look good for flat Earth, but, you know, I understand why.
I mean, there's basically two ways that it can go. Basically, you know, in my estimation right now, there's not nearly enough evidence to say that that was a green screen and sham and that sort of thing. So what's going to happen, I think, is people are going to recognize that, yes, they did go. And those people are either going to have to eat their words and apologize like men, or they're going to spiral even further. And that's their only two options right now, you know, and good. You know, I think it's a good lesson that people need to learn. I think a lot of people got a little bit too much hubris with this flat Earth thing. It was like a lot of people found out that the Earth was flat, and I think they felt like they had something on people. They had this little superior things like, oh, I know something you don't know. I know what the Creator's actual Earth is. And I think it went to a lot of people's heads. And I think what flat Earth really should do is actually just bring us back to center and heart. It's really what it should be doing. And so when I see all of this stuff happening, I'm like, this is not what flat Earth is about at all. None of this. So
yeah, that's the part for me, because, you know, I never expected myself to get on here and talk about this topic. It wasn't on my to-do list in my life. And so to come to this side and realize, like, I was just seeking truth, and a lot of us are. And those people, I think that they are thinking that that's what they're doing, but it's just, if it isn't true, I think waiting for that mountain of evidence is the best advice right now.
Yeah, what's the rush too? Like, why is everybody just so feeling? Is this The View or something? Is this like a 24-hour news cycle? What, like, if we're actually going to be doing science, then the first thing we need to do is let's get all the information in. That's number one, right?
Right.
Not all of a sudden just jumping to accusations and claims and asking questions like, why don't we have this and this and this and this? Well, maybe there's reasonable answers for that, and maybe you just need to have a little bit of frickin' patience. You know, like that. It's that simple. And if it turns out that all these guys are shams and they're frauds, it will be exposed. Calm down, everybody. When we get more of this video, we'll find out if Jared was actually lying or whatever. I don't think that's going to be the case whatsoever. But, you know, so I just think that right now it's like a lot of people are being children, and I think it might be a good thing ultimately, because it might force them to grow up a little bit and actually act like adults, you know? So.
I agree. In fact, I have never seen... a lot of different people were approached when it came to the Antarctic thing. And, you know, in hindsight, I've had to do some reflection here. It's like, wait, I think everybody would have been in jeopardy had they gone. And again, Whitsitt, people forget. It's like, yes, Jaron made, you know, a statement on camera that, you know, in a vulnerable place where he probably shouldn't have made it. But Austin was golden. He didn't say anything, you know, that was even remotely controversial when it came to the media whatsoever. And which is why, you know, the media loves a clickbait. And so every freaking troll thumbnail is just Jaron Jaron. And people forget. Sorry, one more thing real quick, guys, which is, anyone want to address Lizbeth? No one's been calling her anything. Why? Because, hate to say it, she's one of the smartest women in flat Earth right now. Go, Lizbeth. I'm on your team. You kept your head down. You said nothing. You didn't even give a no comment. You were just out of there, and nobody's touching you. It's awesome. But you were freaking golden by the time you got back.
Yeah,
Go ahead.
Oh, I just wanted to give a quick update on Lizbeth. I did hop into Clubhouse and check in with the Flat Earth gang, just kind of, making sure that she was okay, if they had heard anything. And she did send me a message that she's okay. She's resting. She rest assured they were there, and she's going to be putting out content in the future to kind of help push this narrative forward, and we can put this behind us if that's the case. But it's just crazy because there's so many things that people were jumping on right away. It's nothing else. It is entertainment. But I get why people are so fired up, because it makes Flat Earth look bad. But what also makes Flat Earth look bad is the in-house fighting. So
yeah. Something that caught my eye when it came to your stuff, Marty, was your crap. I just lost my train of thought for a second. What were you saying? Shoot, you were talking about how Crap. Sorry, DJ, go. I've lost my train of thought.
Well, Marty's
back to it.
I mean, like Mark said it behind the show earlier, he was like, you were firing on all four cylinders, Marty. So what makes you feel so strongly about this in the sense of just how things are handled? I mean, obviously does this play into what you think Flat Earth should be? I mean, how have you been? I'm not sure that's a necessary.
Oh, wait. I know what it was. Sorry, real quick. It was the meeting that you said, Marty, that never happened. That's what it was. And you were really good about this, and you were actually kind of taken aback. Like you said, nobody asked me. He goes, if it was my group that was going down there, you would have a meeting beforehand to set up contingencies. It's okay, if this happens, and this happens, you be prepared for everything. And they were prepared for nothing, and they were caught completely. Well, Austin wasn't caught off guard, but Jaron was completely caught flat-footed.
Well,
so, go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, look, a lot of people have every right to be upset about Jaron, about, how he handled it. Now, I get what he's saying about everybody's a backseat driver and playing, armchair quarterback and that sort of stuff. I get that. Right. But you also have to know that if you are going to participate in something like that, you need to know exactly what you're walking into. No matter what, whoever walked into that should have expected this. Should have expected it to be a setup, a trap. No matter what, I don't care who Duffy is. I don't care if he's actually paid, CIA. I don't need to know any of that in order for him to just look at what he presented, how he set up this whole parameter to go down, the experiment to go down, and for me to look at that and that smells like dog shit. I don't need to know anything about it other than everything about this is no good. So Jaron's going into that and then giving them the exact, sort of blip that they need is the very thing that should be avoided. And everybody has a right to be critical of him for that. He can get mad at that, but that's fine. And that's why I made the video saying, this isn't like, I would have done this afterwards. I've been talking about this stuff, like I said, since 2017. I would have said exactly the things I said, and to be honest, I think I mentioned it a couple times in the video, but I find it kind of annoying that no one actually even asked. No one contacted me, because I would have said, okay, well, I'll get involved in this, but we're going to do it right. I would have been a prick about it, man. Like, if you know me, I would have been, man, so it's like, anyway.
Well, I don't know. It's so tough because I think in their defense, they knew it was basically like a mousetrap. They're taking the bait, but that was how they were able to actually go there. We had to interview Jaron before he went, and we had talked about, okay, what happens if you see the 24-hour sun? We know that Joe Hanvey was already interviewed by Will Duffy, proving that the flat Earth model that he's been working on can show how there could be a 24-hour sun. We have Stephen Alonso, who won the final experiment mathematical challenges with his animated model of there is a 24-hour sun, and they're predicting it. So, I think if we want to break it down, the chain of events, I mean, that might be, I don't know if everybody out there already knows. I mean, it feels like it is breaking news. So for a lot of us flat earthers, we've been trying to keep up on the content, figure out what people are analyzing, what are the responses from Whitsitt and Jaron. And, it's kind of like right when they get there, they have green screen glitches. They're conceding the Earth or the sun is 24 hours before it's been 24 hours. We have Vapegate, which is saying that he's vaping to fake breath, and it's like all these things compact with the snow, the footprints in the snow. But then you have Dave Weiss immediately doing damage control, able to show how the shadows are changing, able to show how the snow was so compact it was like ice, and the steps weren't imprinting as deeply, so they weren't showing up. You have Austin, who came forward and already said, look, I was not vaping. I had to go take some water, and that's why my breath showed. So there are counter arguments already firing back. It's just because they haven't put all their content out yet, and because the way that they conceded it, that's the one trippy part to me, is that it just felt like the flat earth side didn't even get a chance to regroup before they're on camera going, oh, there it is, and just looking dejected. Do you know what I mean?
Right. And sorry, one more thing. I want Marty to comment on this, which was, you took the guy out of all the people that make content, right? You took the one guy that spent years betting casino chips on the sun. The one guy. No one else spent so much time on the sun. I remember years ago, Jaron and Bob and sometimes David doing stuff in the 24-hour sun. And so that and his chat room, kept hammering on him. It's like, don't go. And so unfortunately for him, when he decided to go, he was already put in the he's suspicious camp because he was going. And at that point, if he made any mistakes along those lines, and he made a big one, they're like, and then anyone by association, that's the part that drove me nuts, which was Austin was being grilled for just being next to him. Just being in the same arena. And I know I'm trying not to be distracted by chat, but I want to put this out there, and I want Marty to comment on it. You got to understand, if our team was flipped, that means everybody was in on it, right? Everybody, not just our team, but Will Duffy. You're giving way too much credit to McToon, right? The guy MC Toon, one of the most horrible people I've ever seen in my life, right? And then McKeegan from the UK, and which is just a garden variety photographer, and the Candace Owens producer and friend. You're thinking, really, all those? That's the mastermind. They're all in on it, and our team was completely flipped from day one. If that was the case, sorry, Whitsitt would have Jaron's channel and Whitsitt's channel would have been emptied out, and there would be one video on both of them. It would have been, you know what, flat earthers, suck it. I'm a globalist now, and that would have been it. They'd never talk to anyone again. And then Jaron would be doing TikToks about his new features on his BMW. That's what he'd be doing. Sorry. Go ahead, Marty.
Oh, nothing. I mean, I don't know what to say about it other than it's really just a shit show. And the idea that Dave, with the last 4 or 5 videos that he put out, Dave Wise, is doing damage control, just even that language to me is absolutely absurd. No, you're doing a scientific, reasonable, rational analysis of inconsistencies or what you think are inconsistencies and giving you options as to what they could be. Are they those things or whatever? Maybe so, maybe not. But for a bunch of flat earthers just to run out and say, nope, it's a fraud, it's a sham, without even considering all these other things, look, the Globies are right. You guys are idiots when it comes to that. You I'm sorry, but they're wrong about everything else. Don't get me wrong, but you know what I mean. It's just,
look, I honestly, I do feel bad for the 3 there. I mean, imagine the amounts of pressure they're going there. They're really not being coached on what to do when they get there. They have their predisposition of what they think is going to happen, and then they're sitting there as the globe side is gloating in front of them and having to keep their cool, knowing that any footage that they're just waiting for a reaction. It's like they knew it was a trap. I think that our guys, look, this is going to be, if it's a hit piece, it'll be a badge of honor one day. If they faked it, damn, that is wild, and flat earth is crazy, and I want out. You know what I mean? It's just kind of like, I don't think that's the case. So what we're going to have to do is analyze the data, give these guys a little bit of grace period to rest up and come back with their side of the story, and hopefully things will start to fall into place. But it is just so discouraging to watch so much in-house fighting, which they're just going to use against us later. But that's okay, because look, flat earth, like I said, it's not an organized movement. It's not a cult. There isn't a doctrine. There isn't a leader to say, you're going to go and do this. This is how you're going to do it. And when you get back, you're going to report this way. So the fact that it is a little messy doesn't bother me. It's kind of actually a relief. But it is, if you're looking at it from a PR stance, and there's very smart people in this community that know how things should be said and handled, and to be thinking about how the enemy is going to react. It's like, I'm sorry, I don't mean the word enemy. I just mean that if they're being deceitful, the opposition, that is literally, we're the ones trying to push truth forward. We're saying that this is a created realm and that it works differently than we've been taught. And we're just trying to get to the bottom of it. And here we are fighting over these things with our own guys who are there, boots on the ground. And it just breaks my heart because I know that Jaron, in his mind, he's probably thinking, and sorry, Jaron, I'm not going to speak for you, but I can imagine after getting to know very little that you just felt like you were being honest and you were caught in a moment. And I'm not going to hold it against you the rest of your life, dude. It's just, we got to keep pushing forward.
It was just amazing to see certain things right away come out, and people were just automatically calling it, no, it's absolutely fake. Like there was one guy that he watches every sermon and that sort of stuff, and he wasn't paying attention to this at all. He didn't even know anything about it. And so he had just heard me say that somebody was saying that there are no tracks in the snow. He's like, well, I live in Finland. We have a word in Finnish for that. It's specifically a word for when ice is packed too high, too hard, and you walk over. You get, like Jennifer, we used to live up north. That happens up north too. So it's like if I say that, all of a sudden I'm a shill. I'm like, no, I'm just telling you specifically. Like that's a thing. For people to run out and immediately say that that's proof that the whole thing is a fraud, that is really erratic thinking. It's really unbalanced thinking. It's actually, I would say, kind of like sociopathic in a way, or maybe that's not the right word, but it's not healthy. It's not.
Jumping to conclusions on this level, I've never seen anything. And I've tried to tell people, and officially, look, I'm going to say it. You want a soundbite? Here's my soundbite. After watching the footage and watching what everyone's been breaking down for the last, week or two, nothing stands out as being damning evidence that anyone had anything to do with being flipped. Nothing. Not a single thing. And if you want to go, I mean, I know people have called me and said, oh, the snow. It's like, look, I lived in Colorado for 20 years. I know snow. Nothing. It's like, I'm watching. It's like, yeah, and nope. It's not enough. Not even remotely enough. And so there's nowhere for you to go with this. You are never going to convince me that our team was flipped and that the whole thing was a sham. Jaron made mistakes, but this shouldn't surprise anyone. Again, not picking on Jaron, but he was the one they went after behind the curve. And so Jaron made some bad moves, but I'm not condemning him. It's like, look, he's done 10 years of amazing work. And Austin has done years of amazing work. You guys, and you've got some of their like strongest supporters flipping on them within hours. They're on their plane ride back and they're already being, crucified. It's like, come on.
Well, that's what's so jarring. It's like you could put so much time and energy into this, and then the second that it doesn't go the way you were thinking, it's like, why not explore the other option? What is the sun and the moon doing up there? Why is it so hard to believe that they could be reflecting off a crystalline dome, and it's way cooler and intricate and amazing that the place that we live in than what we were thinking? I mean, it's super simple. And I want to get into the Gnostic Academy of Jesus Christ, Marty, and I really can't wait to kind of hear what inspired you to do that and what it means exactly, and the things that you've learned and your inspiration from Scripture. Because ultimately what we're saying here is we're trying to peek into the mind of God, and we're trying to say, hey, how does this amazing realm that he created for us work? And rather than fight about it, I would be getting more upset at Duffy for not being forthright, for being misleading, for being deceptive, because he has been narrating and manipulating this whole final experiment since the get-go. And I always thought, well, hey, we kind of knew that, but we're going to go into it anyway. But I would love to see the Flat Earth community unite, like Mark said, and to use all of their resources, time, and power and energy to kind of expose what they've already done to mislead the public.
Yeah. I mean, for me and like our little group, our little dusty corner of the internet that I like to say, when I see these people freak out like that, and I've already had probably 20, 30, 40 people just in the last 5 hours come to my channel and start calling me a shill, and you're obviously in that and stuff like that. Great. Come to my channel and let me know that, because those are the very people that I do not want around. All you're doing is raising your hand and saying, I'm going to be a child. I'm not going to think through these things. I'm going to throw accusations against you that a person like me is completely innocent of any of this shit. And you're going to do that all because you're spiraling in your head. There's nothing about that you should be near our church at all. So it's a great thing for me. That's why I had no problem putting out those videos, because if you show up and just start throwing, leveling things at me, I'm like, okay, great, go on. It's that simple, you know. Great.
Well, we're not bored, that's for sure. And all of this is, needless to say, has got people fired up. It's getting people to talk about the flat Earth. It is exposing to more people about that there even is a fight about this topic, which to me is a little bit of a relief, because some of my friends, they've come to me now and been like, "Oh, so are you ready to admit that we're back in space and it's a globe?" I'm like, absolutely not. It doesn't prove that what's going on in the sky. It doesn't prove the floor. So, and then they're just dejected, going, "Oh, I thought this was over." And it's like, no, that's what they want you to believe. And so, guys, I hope that Jaron and Austin can kind of dust themselves off from this, and Lizbeth, and just be like, look, here's the overwhelming proof that we were there. They're going to have hours and hours of footage, and that we can kind of, those who feel man enough to apologize, great. And if they really are lying, we're going to get to the bottom, like you said. So eventually we're going to have to move on from this topic and get into the other biblical stuff and what keeps us going. Because in my mind, it's like, if we're just getting to another piece of the puzzle of what our Earth really is, then it's just, how does that strengthen my faith? That's like what I'm really after in all this.
Right on.
Yeah.
Go ahead. Go ahead, Marty. Go ahead.
No, go ahead.
Okay, I just wanted to springboard off of DJ for a second. You're absolutely right, DJ. And Peanut wanted to remind me of this as well. And I actually heard Marty say this a couple times in his video, which was, look, the sun, well, one, we have no idea what's going on in the sky. We have no freaking idea. And the sun, the Antarctic sun, has nothing to do with the curve, with gravity, with every space organization that's ever been put out there, and there are a bunch of them. And nobody, and I'm not kidding you, I've been doing this 10 years, no one gets into flat Earth because of the Antarctic sun. So the weight that's put into it right now, it's like, where did you guys come from? It's like, why do you care so much now about something that you didn't even get into it? So look, I've yet to get a single email from anybody saying, I'm leaving. So go ahead.
No, to be honest, like, because I had said this, but I was like, I'm kind of bored with flat Earth, because once you realize the Earth is flat, it's like, what, do you want to realize it's more flatter or something? Like, then you look up, and then that was what the whole video was about. It's like, okay, how much can you even say about that stuff, guys, before we even start talking about the sun? Wait a second. What is that thing? How does it work? How far away is it? How big is it? Is it actually a circle? Is it a sphere? How does it run? Like, we have to ask 10,000 questions before we even go to some place in the south, look up, observe something, and then say anything about that. So, it's like, for me, I'm like, I got to a point where, like, I can't say anything about that stuff upstairs. I can't prove any of it, so why would I argue any of that stuff, number one? Number two, I didn't realize, because I haven't been in this conversation, I didn't realize that people were passionately claiming that there was a 24-hour sun. I did not know that. I knew people had said that, but I didn't realize it was like a thing, because I'm not engaged in this. So then when I heard that, I was like, well, why are people saying that? Just because of this model? Well, wait a second. Then that's where I went and basically sort of described the whole idea of immaterial and material. And once again, I guess this is me just kind of being naive, but I actually thought more people understood that than they did. So when I did that video, I got to tell you, it basically, I didn't have to think through anything. Like, literally nothing. I just took a bunch of the stuff that I'd already presented before, and I was like, here, guys, this is what I've been saying. So...
Yeah, anyway. I really like that you said that, because you kind of break it down. You're like, look, we could be existing in a realm where it's like the physical meets the metaphysical, the natural meets the spiritual, and maybe there is some sort of transition up in the air that we don't fully understand how it all works, and that's okay with me at this very point. I don't want to. I want to hear about what gets you fired up, Marty, because you have such a great delivery and so much insight into many things that I just don't know much about you. So when we're ready, I do want to hear about what is the Gnostic Academy of Jesus Christ, and please just kind of give us an overview so we can really figure out another piece of the puzzle of what makes you tick and who you are.
Let's do it.
I guess let me just say this. I mean, I've been doing this since 2011, November 2011. I've been, online, writing books, YouTube, that sort of stuff. And so, and I've had my ministry, I think, since that long as well, I want to say. So it's only been in the last 3 years that we actually officially opened a church, So we're probably one of the only flat Earth churches out there, if you will. I'm sure there's some, but, so yeah, basically my whole thing was, I was basically just trying to find God. I was trying to understand my life. I was trying to understand what I was doing here. I basically went into all of the mysteries of the world, and that was everything from cosmology to archaeoastronomy to numerology to comparative mythology to religious study. And I just had this ravenous sort of hunger to try to understand my place in the world. And then that just ended up being like lots of sort of personal discoveries and that sort of thing. And it just led me on this course to be like, well, I had some sort of ability to teach it pretty well. I have, that sort of thing. And so I was just kind of thrust into that position of teaching, and that just grew and grew and grew. And as far as I know, there's really no other place online that actually covers some of the very specific things that we do in depth, as far as like some of the numerology stuff, some of the gematria stuff, some of the, astrological or astronomical stuff, as far as like relating that to scripture and things. That there's really no other place online that does that. So that makes us kind of unique.
Yeah, and I mean, maybe not everybody knows what that exactly means as far as gematria, which is that relating the Hebrew language into numbers, how they coincide?
Well, gematria is basically just the study of that languages have numbers attached to them in general. So most people know it through Hebrew because it's really popular or whatever. It's really, they've kept it up and really well known. But there's lots of systems like isosophy in Greek has a system. The Hindu, I think it's called the Abjad system. They have that there. Even like the rune script and things like that has numerics attached to that. So basically all I did was essentially was, I don't even know how to say it, given or had a revelation about essentially what would be called the septenary cipher for English, and how that is applied directly to the Bible. And then we actually go through the history of where that comes from, how the Rosicrucians talked about the fact that our language was encoded mathematically and the Bible itself was an encoded document. Hebrew Kabbalah tells you that as well, but then they're also saying that this was done in Greek and English as well. So that's what we do, and we go line by line and basically explain, especially when you get to the biblical stuff, like what all those numbers mean, like why 153 fish, or why 40 days, 40 nights, or why 30, 60, and 100 of, you know what I mean? Like you just go chapter after chapter and find all these really weird, obscure references to numbers, and no one, as far as I can tell, has a fucking clue what they mean. And we just explain them because I studied that stuff. It's just that simple, So,
well, it sounds like it's just another layer to the wisdom of Scripture that maybe not everyone is aware of.
Well, I think Scripture is a lot like our cosmology. Everybody was taught that it was one thing, and I think now we're coming along and we realize, oh no, it's actually something completely different. And I think that's one of the things that our church does actually, is because people come to the Bible with this sort of preconceived notion about what it is and what it's supposed to do, and we kind of take that and we're like, I don't think so, bro. This book is an astrological book, but through and through. You go to most churches, they're going to be like, astrology, that's devil worship or whatever it is. And that just goes to show you, whatever's happened, as far as our contention is, whatever's happened to a lot of these religions, especially Christianity, is pretty much the same thing that's happened to our cosmology. Got turned into a globe, if you will.
Right. And so, I mean, even then, just quick backstory on myself. I am a student of the Bible. I'm still researching and reading and trying to understand more. So I'm super open. I go by DJ Curious because, there's no subject beneath me. I just want to learn what people have experienced, especially when you get to flat Earth, because it does feel like there's a line in the sand of like, okay, I'm going to believe in the globe. And then when you see the overwhelming mountain of evidence of flat Earth, you're going to cross that line. And then all of a sudden it's like there's new territory all over the place. And that's why we're experiencing this infighting within the community, because not everyone agrees on this or that. Okay, so that's established. Now, with your journey, I'm so curious, since we're on this topic of the numerology and the gematria, is there a couple examples you could give us that you found really interesting, compelling, that right off the top of your mind of?
Well, there's loads of examples I could give you. It's kind of hard without showing graphics and stuff like that, just because a lot of times it is a visual thing. But I mean, just to give everybody some context, I mean, I've written a 550-page book on Lord Jesus Christ. And the entire book is literally, I don't want to say the entire book, but pretty much a good portion of it is all about the mathematical encodings encoded in his single name, Lord Jesus Christ, in Greek and in English. So it's 550 pages. So that much. And I swear to God Almighty, on my mother's grave, all of the things in it are verifiable. They're demonstrable. They're mathematically astute. Yeah, I mean, that you could prove them is what I'm saying. So there's so much encoded in his name, and that's everything from the number of days of the solar year, the synodic lunar month, everything from well, actually what would be understood as the mathematics of the Solcan calendar is encoded in his name. I mean, just a bunch of stuff. The geometry of the cube, the degree of phyllotaxis, numbers of the sun. All of these things are absolutely encoded in his name. And as far as I could tell, the mystic traditions absolutely understood this and were extracting this information. And that's what we're doing. But for the layman, for most Christians, they don't have a clue. And yet it's absolutely the foundation of Scripture. I notice Kingdom and Context is in here. He should probably stop by the channel. Let me say that again. Hey, Kingdom of Context, you should probably stop by the channel. So.
Well, I think, when you get to the flat side again, it opens up a can of worms, and not everyone agrees on the name of the creator. So you're saying that you found more connections within the numerology of the Bible that point towards that the name would be the Lord Jesus. Is that what I'm hearing?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yep.
So that's kind of an interesting angle, right? Because in the Bible, again, it does say that, that our God, our creator, holds all things together. And so if you're finding evidence of that, I find that something worth investigating. And so if other examples pop up, let us know. If Mark, obviously, if you have any questions, jump on in. But I am curious about, what does it mean to be the Gnostic Church of Jesus Christ? Like, how would you describe the word Gnostic for us?
Well, that's one of the biggest misnomers that people have, or whatever, is they hear Gnostic, and a lot of times they have what they think Gnosticism is, or what Gnosticism at some point in history may or may have not been. But gnosis is just knowledge. That's all it really means, right? But basically, when you look at the idea mystically, it's essentially like received knowledge or experiential knowledge. So in other words, it's just like with flat Earth. Somebody could come along and tell you, hey, guys, the Earth is flat. But you only really intuit it and understand it when you go through the process of experiencing it yourself, questioning itself, right? Going over and saying, oh, God, I can see 20 miles away. That tells me, it's experiential knowledge. It's experiential wisdom. And so when we talk about gnosis, that's what we're saying. It's like basically understanding Christianity through the experience of it, and that gets at everything with Christ within. That gets, but also understanding that when you look into your world, that the foundational order of it, the logos of it, if you would, is everywhere, and you are able to extract that knowledge too, meaning the mathematics of your hands, understanding your cosmology, understand, earth, air, water, and fire. We could go on and on and on, and we do, but it's that kind of thing. It's really, it's a very mystical approach to Scripture, because it brings in all these other things that essentially modern Christianity throws away: astrology, some core symbolism, numerology, gematria, that sort of stuff. So
okay, well, and it sounds like maybe it brings up some controversy within the Christian community. Is that what you were kind of experiencing? I mean, yes. We don't necessarily have to get into the division of it, but I'm just curious how it stands out, because I really don't know.
It's extremely controversial as far as, because I mean, even just the fact of astrology itself, for a lot of Christian churches, most Christian churches would deem astrology or the study of it or anything like that as some sort of demonic thing, or it has nothing to do with my Christianity. And they couldn't be further from the truth. My wife and I, she's actually from Germany, so we actually last year, or this year actually, we went to Nuremberg and Würzburg and things like that. We basically toured all of these old Christian cathedrals. And I walk in there and I'm like, I can basically do a tour of the place without ever even being in there, because everything that's in there is understood through mysticism. It's understood through what we would understand as the Gnostic perspective, meaning there's a whole bunch of things like paintings and wood carvings and stonework and stuff like that is all based on astrology in a Christian church. And there's not a person that walks into that Christian church that can actually do a deconstruction of what any of that stuff is, because they reject astrology.
So are you using the scripture that God created the the sun, moon, and stars as for times, signs, and seasons as like the basis, or have you found more scriptures that kind of point towards that this is okay?
I mean, I would say this: if you go to our church services and you sit like through a church service and like we're going to do John chapter 12, I think this Sunday or whatever. Well, what we do is basically not just like look at a line here and there that says Bible says astrology is okay or whatever. What we actually do is just go through the entire story and show how all of the characters can absolutely be related to the constellations above. And this goes for at least the stories of the gospel, Ezekiel, Revelation, Genesis, Exodus, a good portion of, save for like Psalms and things like that, but a good portion of those books of the Bible are top to bottom astrological. Meaning the characters, they're related to stars above, the 12 disciples, the zodiac, that kind of thing, so.
Well, I don't fully understand all the angles. I guess I don't fully understand what is the controversy, and maybe you could help break it down for us between this and another Christian belief. But it sounds like if it's a piece of who the creator is and the mind of the creator, then it's just kind of adding another layer, how this place was designed, and that it's going to keep surprising us, right? Like we learned that, okay, everything is frequency, everything is vibration, this earth is magnetic, there's all these other things. And then maybe you can kind of fill in the gaps of what I'm not saying with what you really want to hit home for the people listening so that they go and look into it.
Well, I guess I'll just say this, like when there's all these sort of mysteries in the Bible, like what is Moses in the burning bush, and what was Ezekiel's in the wheels that he saw, and what was the that sort of stuff. Well, what we do is we go into each one of those stories and show you specifically what they mean by the astrology, the anatomy, that sort of stuff. Like for instance, I'll give you just one anecdote, right? So Moses, since I just mentioned this one, Moses in the burning bush, right? So here's the story, Old Testy story about, the prophet Moses, and he sees God and he's there in a burning bush. And as far as I can tell, biblical scholar after biblical scholar for literally thousands of years cannot make any sense of what that actually means, right? I mean, I've never heard anybody give me a thorough, just plain Jane, black and white, simple pimple explanation of what the heck that means. Right? Nobody. Well,
what would people say? They would say it was maybe God speaking through fire and the bush was lit up.
Yeah, I mean, there's really no other explanation for it other than, well, that's just what Moses saw that day, kind of thing. Well, what we show is that in the body of the human being, there's a thing back here called your arbor vitae, and it's literally called your tree of life, and it literally looks like a little bush. It's in your cerebrum. It's in the back here, right? Well, this goes right up your spinal column, and in your head, in what's called the zodiac man, your head is given one of the constellations, and that's Aries. Okay, neck is Taurus, shoulders Gemini, that sort of stuff, right? Well, Aries is a fire sign. So your head is a fire sign. And then not only in your head, you have this thing in the back here that's a bush, right? That bush, actually, literally, if you look at your anatomy, this tree basically has a little trunk. The trunk leads up to what would be a seed, and that seed is your pineal gland. So when Moses is coming along and saying that he saw God face to face and in a burning bush, this is all symbolic, deeply, deeply profound symbolic language to actually say where Moses saw God, and that was within him. Now, this is all when you actually go through every story like this and actually show where these connections are. At some point, it gets, I would say, completely irrefutable. Like it gives you a perfect understanding of where these stories come from, where constellationally they are, how they match to your body, like all of those things. And all of that, as far as the controversial part is concerned, as far as I can tell, all of that is essentially poo-pooed in modern Christianity for the most part.
Okay. Well, and Mark, how are you doing over there?
Oh no, I'm gonna let you.
Are you okay? I mean, I'm really curious. I love.
No, I could. What? Because I'm gonna shut down your curiosity. You have that name for a reason, DJ. It's fine. It's absolutely fine. But you know what we could do? Let's do this. Let's go to our break.
Okay.
And then when we come back, so the screen will change to we're running the Flat Earth, Sun, Moon, and Zodiac clock app commercial and stuff. And when we come back, we'll hit you with some other stuff. Are you willing to come back and talk to us, Marty?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
All right.
All right.
Sounds good.
What happens when I hit this button?
Introducing the Flat Earth Sun, Moon, and Zodiac Clock App Meetup Maker. Never miss another meetup again. You can look up meetups in several different ways. Sort by date. You can search by location or within a 500-mile radius. To create and list your own meetup, enter the date. Give the meetup a name, a location name, add a photo, enter your contact information, create a group chat name, and then fill out the description with all of the details. Select your background color and hit the Save button to add your meetup to the list. Once the meetup is saved, it will ask you to create a group chat for all of the meetups so people can join the group and start a local chat community. Select Public Group, add your welcome message, and your meetup is now available for all to see. To make sure you don't miss another meetup in your area, you can select your desired radius and whether you want push notifications or email or both. Whenever a new meetup is added in your selected radius, you get notified. The Flat Earth, Sun, Moon, and Zodiac Clock Meetup Maker, bringing people together all around the plane.
Yeah, it is.
Join me, Karen B, every moon day at 9:30 a.m. for Coffee Talk on YouTube, Rumble, and Rockfin. You never know what you'll learn about in the coffee shop. Open topic and open phones, y'all. And also for meetups, local meetups. If you want to have your meetup listed on flatearthfestivals.com for free, please email flatearthfestivals@protonmail.com.
Now, if I switch over, is the music going to go with me? Is it going to be fine? Okay. Welcome back to Strange World, part 2 of 2. It's you, me, the image of Patricia Steere, the always delightful DJ Curious, the special guest, Marty Leeds. And yeah, you know what? That was Joe Jackson stepping out from his album,
Night and Day.
Exactly, yeah. I don't know what kind of music Marty listens to, but I guarantee you're old enough to at least know who Joe Jackson is.
No.
Oh my God. What, are you serious?
Of the Jacksons? Is he from the Jacksons?
Oh, sweet Mother of Mary. Are you serious?
How
old? Wait, no, you know what? I'm not going to say how old, but apparently you're younger than I thought. So, no, Joe Jackson sang Steppin' Out. That was his big one. Did a lot of 70s stuff. Are you really going out with him? Doesn't really matter. What do you listen to on a regular basis?
Oh, I listen to all sorts of things. I listen to everything from like piano music and like rock and roll and folk and just lots of stuff. So yeah. I am looking forward to the Deftones going on tour though, because I'm going to try to get backstage. I'm going to try to call him. So.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Do you want me to shoot him an email? What city? Do you know what city?
I think they're coming to St. Louis. I wanted to say I saw. So.
Peanut, can you look it up really quick? The Deftones 2025 North American tour?
But
Because I know Steph listens to the show. Go ahead.
Oh yeah, I lost his number, so which is a dumbass thing. But so somebody here should get me his number or send him an email.
I will shoot him a thing. I'll just carbon you and I'll shoot you his thing.
Okay, cool.
Because they're playing bigger venues this time around. It's interesting. They're playing the Seattle Center. They're playing Madison Square Garden, which is awesome.
It's like they're getting bigger, man. It's like there's like a renaissance or resurgence or whatever. And,
not to get off topic. Do you know what it is though? I don't know if you ever listened to. There's a wonderful YouTube channel called Rick Beato, who's been a producer and artist for years and years, and he was doing this thing, and he happened to point out. He goes, "Look," he goes, "There's no new bands." Because the producers have figured out you can make almost as much money, but with way less drama if you don't sign bands. And so if you're a surviving band that, in this case, like the Deftones, they'll be the last in the line, because they're from the 90s. Basically, after the 90s were over and then the boy bands were signed, that's it. There were no new rock bands, so there's no competition. So if you're an older rock band, you can tour basically forever.
Yeah.
If you
want,
it's
awesome that they're still putting out music too. I mean, the last Ohms record was freaking badass, man. That was a great record. I mean, anyway.
Yeah. Oh, I'm sorry, Peanut. You're looking for the Deftones St. Louis sometime this summer. Deftones are not going to be in St. Louis. What's the closest they're going to be to St. Louis?
Oklahoma.
Where are they going to be?
I thought.
Go on, man. They're all over the place. Ohio, Indiana. Are the closest. Where you're near St. Louis?
Yeah.
Oof. Yeah, the closest right now it looks like Ohio and Indiana. Maybe Nashville.
Nashville, that's what it was. That's where I was
Okay,
going.
Nashville's within reach.
Yeah, that's okay. It's like 4 or 5 hours. So anyway, but
right on. Okay, I'll after the show I'll give you the deets.
Cool.
Okay, cool. And that would be March 26th, by the way, in Nashville.
March 26th, baby. We're going to see the Deftones.
He's listening to the show. I can't even guarantee that. But I think he knows your stuff.
No,
all right.
No, I interviewed him, and I actually want to interview him again, especially because they got a new record coming out. So, if he is listening,
oh, then definitely.
Yeah, get a hold of me. Anyway, go.
Marty's near. Are you in Missouri?
I am in Missouri. That's right.
Yeah, he's in Missouri. So he'll search. Peanut will search around for you. Anyway, where did we leave off? Yeah, you're actually pretty close to Peanut. So apparently you two could be friends, maybe. Whatever. Sorry, DJ. Where did we leave off?
Well, we're leaving off basically how Marty has been able, and I was reading in the chat that people are crediting you doing an amazing job of connecting astrology to the Bible, to a portion of Christianity, if I'm saying that correctly. Which, I get why that's so controversial, but it's super fascinating because, again, maybe what we're learning from this 24-hour sun in Antarctica possibly is that the Creator is going to continue to surprise us. And so if there are multiple layers to what our Creator is able to do and the messages and how he wrote this book, I think it's a conversation that's super important and fascinating and worth, so happy that you've spent so much time and energy pouring into it to kind of provide it for us. And so I'm really doing my best to ask the right questions. So Marty, help us out. If there's anything that you want to share that we're not touching on, feel free to kind of fill us in and educate us on what this is meaning, because I think that's going to help everyone get a bigger picture. But I think what I'm really hearing from you is that you've stumbled upon just the encoded message that's within the Bible. And I think that the Creator's signature is in all things. So I would not be surprised to learn that this stuff is connected in some way or another, and how to make it work for all maybe the skepticism out there, because it sounds like people put the Creator in a box sometimes, and I don't believe that we can do that.
Yeah, well, I mean, the interesting thing about the Bible, when you're talking about it being like a layered document and things like that, it's like if you just look at any sort of classic work of literature, like a William Shakespeare or some of my favorites like a James Joyce and things like that, you go into those books and you can see that there is clearly multi-layers going on there, that even when a singular word is used, it's multifarious. It has many different facets. It's like they could be telling you one one story, and there could be a story reflected in, once again, the celestial canopy, a story about, whatever, falling in love, a story about your human anatomy, and all of these things are sort of like different spokes of a wheel that all come together on the single hub. So in other words, like you have the central story of the Bible, right? Whatever it is, and that's the center of the hub of the wheel. And every single spoke is all of the different facets you can get from this singular story. And that includes, like I was saying, like all of the aspects that we cover, especially the celestial stuff, the numerology stuff, human anatomy. So, and all of that is, as far as I can tell, from every single church that I've ever seen, has been completely lost, abandoned. They have no idea about it. When you go to read the Bible, just itself, just as a work of literature itself, and you analyze it, it just screams at you that there's something else going on here, that there's different layers here, that there's multiple meanings here. And then, of course, there's loads of Bible verses that tell you that that's the true, that's the case, meaning like, was it Proverbs 20? Was it Proverbs 25:2? Is glory of God to conceal a thing, but the honor of kings is to search out a matter. It's like God has concealed things in the Bible, and it's honorable, it's kingly, in order to go out and seek out those what would be, quote unquote, hidden messages, if you will. As far as I can tell, for the most part, most Christians don't even believe that exists. So,
I mean, look, I'm at a point in my life where I can't judge. I just simply can't judge, especially if this has strengthened your faith in any way, shape, or form. Because ultimately what I think that we're doing here as humans is that we're learning how to trust God, and that he's building an individual relationship with all of us and going to continue to surprise us and push us along, especially if you're seeking truth, right? And so maybe what we were talking about earlier is going to really piss some people off, and they can call us names or whatever. But ultimately, if you're seeking truth, then you're going to be open to being surprised, and you're going to be open to not knowing how everything works rather than quick to judge. And so I guess what I'm trying to get out with you is, can you give us a few more cool examples of what got you into this? Maybe there was something in the beginning you're like, oh, I stumbled upon this. Is there something that was like the trigger point for you to get into?
I mean, I don't even know how to describe it, because it's like, it's just like with anything. It's like this slow, long process of like, you find this discovery here, and then you make this screw up here, and you go down the wrong road here, and then you have this revelation here, and then that sort of thing. So, but for the if I go way back, before I was even like religious or anything, or even believed in God, I had some major questions about like, okay, if God does exist, then he should be provable. I shouldn't have to just be like, right, oh God, I just believe you, and with no proof whatsoever, right? Like, or whatever, you know what I mean? And so,
well, I mean, the Bible says it's blessed are those who believe without seeing, but not everybody operates that way. There's so many similarities and parallels to your story with my own journey of just knowing that they're hiding God in some way, and people like that. What I mean is that they're concealing this evidence that the Creator has put his mark in all things, and that we're being, indoctrinated from birth to think that we live somewhere else, when in reality, if we're in a level plane with the water, hitting the seashore and dry land rising up out of it, as this Bible says, and that God's right above us in this amazing terrarium, then we're going to continue to understand more of what God did to make this place, and it's always going to be incredible. So I want to know how this strengthened your faith, because I think that will really resonate with a lot of people.
Well, I mean, it got me to do, if I continue that story out, like, I wanted to basically prove God in one sense. Like, for me, I had such a hyper analytical mind, and I wasn't religious or dogmatic, or I didn't have any faith whatsoever, that sort of thing. And that ended up leading to mathematics, because numbers and geometry were the one subject that I could look at, and I could say, well, you can't lie to me about this. Like, the internal degrees of the triangle is always going to be 180. 2 plus 2 is always going to equal 4. The fourth triangular number is always going to be 10, and no one is ever going to change that for me. So that was the one subject I could go to. I was like, okay, well, there must be something here, because here is this medium that basically is this universal medium. It's almost like it's metaphysical. It's supernatural. There's really no numbers anywhere, but they exist, right? There's no number 4 anywhere, but it exists. And so I was like, where does all this come from? And basically what that did was lead me to the fact that it's like, I cannot deny that there's an intelligent force behind the creation if this stuff exists in and of itself. Meaning, how did all of this stuff get here? Why is numbers attached to every science you do? There's no science you can do that you do not have to rely on numbers. And so I got to a point, I'm like, well, where does it come from? So that led me to looking into all of these ancient spiritual doctrines and religious texts and things like that, or whatever it was, that actually had a lot of these numbers inserted in there that were like, like 153 and all of them, all the things you talk, number 3, 7, whatever it is, 10. So eventually that led me to specifically to Christianity, to try to understand what were all these weird stories? What were all these weird numbers being used? Why is the number 7 being used repeatedly all throughout the Bible? Why is the number 7, across cultures? You can find it in Cherokee. You can go to the Hindus. You can go to the Bible, and they have this reverence for the number 7. So that kept me going. Basically kept me on the track of pursuing God and being like, well, I want to find this answer. That ultimately led me to the Bible. There was just, and I think really true truth seeking it'll lead you to Christ. That's just my take. But then I got there, and then it was just like, it just started unfolding. I just kept digging in, and that eventually led me to be like, okay, well, that's all I'm doing is this. That's all I'm talking about is this. That's all I'm writing about is this. Apparently, I'm supposed to be a pastor. That's what it did.
What point did Flat Earth get it thrown in the mix then?
2015.
But how was it? What brought you to look into it?
Oh, I think the first time I heard about Flat Earth, I believe it was Eric Dubé on. Damn it! Sorry.
Damn you.
Sorry. I think you were like one of the second videos I saw.
Oh, I know. It's okay.
It's all wrong answer.
Yeah. I could have just lied.
I'm sorry,
Marty's got to go. He's having some technical difficulties.
Anyway. I heard Dubé on Higher Side Chats, and I don't even think I listened to the whole interview, but I just heard that one part, and then that kind of just kept me going. And then probably within a week, I would say less than a week, I was like, pretty sure it's flat. Pretty sure it's flat.
Dang.
And I remember I was dating this girl at the time, and I told her. And I was, because I had no idea what she was going to think, whatever, because I was like, oh, this is great. And she goes right back to me, swear to God. She goes right back to me. She's like, I've been thinking that too lately. I was
Whoa.
like, what? Yeah, it was crazy. It was so crazy. Anyway, I ended up not staying with her or anything, but she lovely person. But. So anyway, so I basically got it. And though immediately, because I had spent so many years like studying, comparative mythology and things like that, as soon as I had heard that people thought the earth was flat, I remember the trigger in my mind. It was this revelatory moment. I was like, oh yeah, all of those things I'd read before, all of those native cultures, the Egyptians, the Hindus, you go down the line, the Mayans, the Aztecs, what did they say? All of them. It's flat, 4 corners, there's a dome. I remember it. I remember the Egyptians, even though people would say, oh, the Great Pyramid is this, it's actually a representation of the ball and stuff like that. I studied Egyptian stuff, and they had said specifically, no, this shit's flat, dude. So that was such a revelation to me. It was like, whoa, wait a second. That's right. We're the only culture that's ever said it's really a ball that I knew of anyway. So,
well, so interesting. I mean, Mark, so it's kind of like getting back to what you were talking about. Could be Easter eggs in the Bible that people are discovering, and that's like a pop culture term, right, Mark? Where it's like the hidden Mickey. If you go to Disneyland, you might find hidden Mickeys throughout the park. In the Bible, there might be Easter eggs, right? There might be.
We're notorious for it when we build, because I come from the software world, and if art imitates life and so on, the software world is notorious for hiding Easter eggs in code. Everywhere, freaking everywhere. It doesn't even have to be a game, and they've been doing it ever since they were creating code. And it's like, where'd that inspiration come from? Exactly. I think it's everywhere in life.
Well,
it's pretty interesting. Cool. It's pretty interesting when you think about this too, because when you bring up the idea to a lot of Christians, and I've noticed this too, that you say that the Holy Bible is an encoded document and that it has deeper layers of information in that. Well, if you go to anything else, like any of the programs you use, any of the software, any of the apps, the internet itself, all of it's encoded, all of it's encrypted. Everything you use. So then you just go to the next step and say, well, do you think that the people that wrote and translated the Bible that were absolutely connected to God and geniuses and that sort of stuff, do you think that they had the intelligence enough to encrypt that? We could encrypt a WhatsApp app or a frickin' Telegram app, but the Holy Bible is not. To me, it was like, Of course it is. Why, if you're going to write a book like that's going to be this sort of, holy thing that's going to have this sort of special caliber to it, well, why wouldn't it be encoded? That does, and then you just look at all these other cultures, like I had said, that specifically said it was.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. I try to remind people on a regular basis. I've said it in multiple speeches where it's like, look, you guys don't have to look very far. You just type into Google ancient cosmologies, click images. It's right there. I mean, there's just waves and waves and waves, and everybody drew the same freaking thing. And every once in a while, it's, the Greeks, screw the Greeks. It's like even the Greeks, some of their stuff was fine. The only one that drew a globe was us, right? It was, which is why it's such a wonderful standout. It's like snow globe, snow globe, snow globe, snow globe, then NASA, right? One of the NASA images, and it just kills me. And even then, there's a consistency issue. It blows my mind. Sorry, not to go off tangent here. It blows my mind because I bring it up all the time. I say, look, the first blue marble shot of the Earth was taken in 1972 by Apollo 17. And the second blue marble shot wasn't taken until the summer of 2015. That's 1972, Apollo 17. That was 43 years between blue marble shots. Why? What's the deal? And it's like, I think they were terrified of trying, as the technology got better and better, of people, and Rob Skiba was a great example of that, of people opening up images in Photoshop down the road. And it's like, oh yeah, there's some real problems here with the images that we've been making. They did not age well. So, sorry.
Do you think that they... I mean, I have a hard time feeling that they wouldn't have known that, and I have a feeling that they were just kind of like, fuck it, we're just gonna let it go anyway. They're so dumb, they're not gonna figure it out.
That good, excellent point. Like the magazine shots that they did for Apollo, you could tell it was like they were professionally photographed. It wasn't someone without a viewfinder taking multiple pictures. Oh wow, that's an iconic image. Look at that, something you can put on the cover of Life magazine. You're right. The public. Sorry, I'll give you one, Marty. You'll get this, which is the public is dumb. They're as dumb as a bag of wet hair or whatever thing you want to compare them with, which is when they came up to the soft suit. If you look at all the old NASA archives, when they did the first spacesuits, they were heavy and bulky and metal and plastic because they had to be, because you had to figure out how to deal with the vacuum of space, right? And then someone came along. But they realized, it's like, you can't climb a ladder at this. You're not going to do it. You can't walk in the inside of anything. This is horrible. And somebody came along, and I'm sure the meeting was short, and they said, no, the public doesn't know anything about physics. They don't. The average American, for example, they get out of school, it's like physics. Oh my God, I hated that class. Don't remember anything. All we have to do is make a soft suit and just put it on television. They'll buy it. They will reason their way through it. Right? They'll come up with an excuse. Even the nerds will come up with an excuse for it. And it worked. It was absolutely flawless. Like the soft suit cannot work in a vacuum chamber. It would turn into a parade float and would detonate.
It's like when everybody was saying about, like, it's like, oh my God, this is going to make Flat Earth look bad, guys. I was like, do you have any idea what they think of us anyway? Like most of those normies have not investigated Flat Earth to even understand why a 24-hour sun in the Antarctic would be a problem. And so people were like freaking out. It's like, it's like those 98% of those people, they already have an opinion on us, and it doesn't matter what you put in their lap. They're going to think we're idiots anyway. So everybody was flipping out, and I just took a little step back. I'm like, well, don't they think we're idiots anyway? Is this like one more thing? Oh, this nail in the coffin for flat earthers, and meanwhile we're all like, nah, shit's still flat.
DJ and Patricia can attest to this. Before they went down there, I told them, I go, the sad part about this is that if with some miracle the sun sets, we're gonna come back, and be like, yeah, the sun set, and you could tell this to a crowd of 100 people. They just stare at you like you asked them a square root of something, and they'd be like, and so it wasn't gonna hurt or help us either way because they don't get it. Right? Sorry, one more thing, which is, and you guys, any trolls that are listening, you can check the archives. I've been saying it for 10 years. People have asked me, like in 1 in every 4 interviews, what's the weakest part of flat Earth? Well, if it's a single light source, the 24-hour sun in Antarctica is going to be a problem. If it's a single light source, but we don't know what's going on down there, and nobody goes there anyway, so it's kind of a push, right? And but every interview, I swear to God, every interviewer that I said that to, right, you'd think one of them would jump on it. right? And say, oh, well, that seems like something. Nope. They just stared at me. They had no idea what I was talking about.
Mm-hmm.
And I'd even bring out the map. I go, see, single light source on the outside. It can't be just doesn't have enough coverage. And they're just staring. They're just shaking their head. That you can tell it is not processing. I'm going, oh, we're good. We're totally fine.
Just think how long it took for us to process some of that stuff.
Right.
Yeah.
So why would we assume that people that are not looking into it, they don't care about it, they're not spiritually inclined enough to care about it? Why would, this doesn't hurt us at all, as far as I can tell. So
Right. And the documentary, sorry, before you say anything, DJ, the documentary is going to be tricky anyway, because if you're trying to pitch this to a producer, it's like, well, the whole premise is the 24-hour sun. You can imagine the average Hollywood producer sitting on the other end of the desk going, yeah, I don't get it. Right? It's like, really? You're going to finance that? You're going to put that on Netflix?
Yeah, because are they going to show us how on the heliocentric globe model that why there should be a 24-hour sun? I mean, are they going to show a ball that's perfectly tilted in space being caught in the gravitational pull of the sun and spinning and twirling and all these things? And it's like, okay, cool. You know what I mean? The payoff is not as substantial as some other stuff.
No, and I never lost a lick of sleep because of Behind the Curve at the end, because I sat in studio audiences. Patricia was there as well, where when the Jaron laser experiment went badly, right? And I would talk to people in the studio audience, and they go, "Well, that was pretty funny at the end." I go, "Did you even get it? Did you understand what the experiment was about?" "Well, no, but it was bad. People laughed." And I go, "Oh,
yeah."
Power of editing.
We're fine.
If you asked every single person that watched that video at the end, what was the laser experiment about? Just ask them. I guarantee.
Oh, they didn't.
98% could be like, I don't know.
Yep.
But flat earthers though, like.
Yeah. They by the time, but unfortunately, again, it was just the way the movie played out. Which by the time you got to the 100 minutes, because the movie was 100 minutes long, by the time you got to the end, you were so overwhelmed that you couldn't even begin to soak in what was happening at the end. I mean, at that point, you were processing everything in the previous hour and a half, and it's not. I mean, you got to remember, you didn't see it in the theater, Marty, but the first 20, 30 minutes, people thought it was a piece of docufiction. Like, those movies like Best in Show, or where they're playing it absolutely straight. To where again the wonderful line that the producers told me about. They said they showed it to someone with no context, and the guy came back. He's like, "Man," he goes, "that was amazing." He's going, "Where did you find all those actors?" And it's like, "What are you talking about?" It's like, everyone played it so straight. Like it's like, no, man, those weren't actors. And that's when his mind just melted.
Oh,
he's like, what? It happened? He goes, that conference happened?
Oh my God. Yeah. Well, if Catherine O'Hara was in it, that would have set it over the edge. It would have been amazing. But, she has a role waiting for her in the Flat Earth movie for sure. And that's why once the in-house fighting dies down and it's settled whether they went or not, and obviously for the majority of us, we're like, look, it appears that they went, so we'll give them a grace period, let them come up with their defense. But then it's just, we can focus on how special this realm is and continue to push forward, try to understand it. And so getting back to just Marty's, his church here, it's kind of cool to me that there could be Easter eggs in this Bible. Doesn't surprise me at all. And God, if he's a piece of all of our personalities combined, he's going to speak to us all differently with what we think is cool and going to capture our imagination and our interest. And that sounds like that's what's happened to you, and that if other people are giving you a hard time about it, maybe they don't fully understand. I guess my question would be, does that mean that you take the Bible, or explain to me how you take the Bible? Is it figurative, literal pieces of it are figurative, literal? How would you break it down for us?
I actually explain the Bible as like not fiction or nonfiction. I actually think it transcends those categories, because really what it is this is what we teach the Bible to be, is that it is mythology. Okay. Now, when I say mythology, a lot of people think that you say, oh, so it's not real kind of thing. Well, no. What mythology really is capturing things that are universal truths, things that are almost like real beyond real. It's those patterns that always show up in this creation in all sorts of different ways. You know what I mean? And so when you talk about like, oh, is the Bible literal? Did these things happen historically just as it says? No, I don't believe that at all. I don't believe that that's the case at all. Is it inspired by some historical events and then, sort of, what's the word? Like, embellished and, all that sort of stuff. That's what I think scripture is for. I think that's the purpose. It's not supposed to be this line by line, point by point, historical, this, that, linear kind of history sort of thing. I don't think that's the case at all. And in fact, when you read it like that, there's actually a whole lot of issues just on the face. But beyond that, if you release yourself from that and you actually realize that there are these sort of epic tales that are based in astrology, that are based literally on the patterns of the stars above, you see is that this goes beyond something that we really have experienced before in writing, in your casual everyday writing. When you read a book, you expect this story that somebody wrote, or this is a biography or something like that. This is sort of transcendent. And I don't know how to explain it any other way than that. Other than, it's not supposed to be meant to be this history book. This is when it happened here. One of the most poignant things that I point out that, as far as I could tell, most Christians never think about is they look at that book as if it's a history book, and yet there's not a single date in the Bible to substantiate when any of the things happened, whether it's Old Testament or New. There's not one. So if you're writing a history book, like if I asked you guys, hey, when did those 2 planes hit in New York?
Right. Yeah.
Was that?
And we give you a specific. We
9/11,
give you a specific
right?
date.
Exactly.
Right.
Right. So yet you have all of these major, what would be considered, at least in modern Christianity, historical events, and yet we don't have a single date, affirmed date for any of these things. Yet it's taught as history. What we say is it's actually sort of it transcends history. It's actually timeless. That these stories are timeless.
Yeah. No, it's so interesting to think of it that way. I if you don't mind me just playing the other side just for the sake of the conversation, I guess the argument would be, well, couldn't it be multiple things? Because where it makes a scientific claim, it appears to be scientifically accurate. Where it makes a geographical claim about our Earth, it seems to be accurate. Where it makes a historical claim, such as maybe the Bible didn't feel like it needed to do dates because it starts with year 1. Adam and Eve at the beginning, right? And it's like, okay, you can pick up from here. And then where it starts to do lineages, how do I say that?
Lineage.
Excuse me. I don't know. I'm on air,
That's
guys.
right.
It's harder than it looks.
You're good. You're good.
No,
the lineages are accurate, right? So in a sense, it is being historically documented, but maybe not with dates the way that you're saying. But is there a problem with it kind of being a mixture in your mind?
No, not at all. There's just in our estimation, there's really nothing to say that that's the case, really.
Okay.
That's just my take. For us, it does not matter whatsoever that any of these people were even real, or if they, and some people get really offended by that, especially with like Jesus and stuff. But it's like, okay, this is, to me, for us, your life isn't run by your history. Your life is actually run by your mythology. Because your life is run by essentially how you think of yourself, Like if you live in your head all the time, I'm a total piece of shit, I'm a loser, I'm never going to go anywhere, I'm such an idiot. Is that actually true about you? And in God's eyes? No. No, he created you as one of his children, and you have all that potential, all through Christ, all things I could do. That's the thing, right? But you are telling yourself in your head all these other things that are not true. What's actually being lived? The truth or your mythology? Your mythology. People do it all the time. In fact, these are images that we give ourselves, that sort of thing. So what God has given us is the true mythology in this sort of sense. It's the one overarching story that's actually true, that's been given by him, and it's the one that we're supposed to follow. And in doing this, the one thing that I think you might have mentioned earlier, it's basically this notion that you're giving yourself, when you do this, what you're doing is you're sort of just giving yourself up to God. You're like, I don't know what's really the best in my life. I'm just going to be like, okay, whatever you need me to do, you make all the marks. You give me all the signs. You open all the doors and I will follow, kind of thing. And I would say that trust, that total faith in God to lead you exactly where you need to be, is that really what's at the foundation of most of those stories. And that's really what Jesus' story is too. It's like he had to fulfill this thing. That was his whole thing. We're given the same sort of thing in our lives, our own destinies that we're supposed to fulfill. And God has given each one of us those things. So this is part of what the whole book is trying to get us to do, is to understand that. Our own destinies.
Well, and it is interesting because Mark had mentioned in a previous episode about when he was writing the clues, that it almost felt like it was divine inspiration, maybe, Mark? I mean, you kind of described it. We were talking about downloads. Marty, you kind of alluded to that. So, you know, I mean, I don't know if you have any thoughts so far, Mark.
That is basically that divine inspiration is really what's at the core of what would be a revelation or Gnostic, what we would call a Gnostic revelation. It's basically direct communication with the divine. Like you are doing something that's so inspiring, so truthful, so at the core of your being dedicated completely to God, that you're put on that path, and what you're doing is you're opening yourself up to say, okay, I've prepared myself to receive these. This is really what it is. This is what Kabbalah means, actually. It means reception. It means to receive. It's a gift that God literally gives you things. So as an example, like Mark, you were saying, oh, when I was making Flat Earth Clues, I was feeling really inspired. I felt it was like God was driving me.
Yep.
I can't tell you how many times I've written a song or something like that where I felt like I was not writing it at all. And I don't know how many musicians I've talked to before that have said the exact same thing, that when you're actually in this state of creativity, what you're doing is you're getting your ass out of the way and you're letting God walk in the door, you know, and that's all about humility, giving yourself up to something bigger, wanting to do something really great for mankind. When you put yourself in that position, God listens. God's like, oh, cool. Okay, you're ready. You're ready to spread my gospel, if you will. Then and so that would be considered gnosis, if you will. And my life has basically just been trying to share how many times that's happened to me, as far as like direct, as far as I can tell, direct like receiving from God. And that goes with pretty much every book that I write and all the sermons that I give. Like, you know, it's just kind of, I just tune in, I listen, and I say, what do I need to do? And then I just do it. So yeah.
Well, it's super interesting, and I can see where it could be controversial within the Christian community. I could see where people on the outside that already think, like you were saying earlier, that most people think that flat Earth is just crazy, and that if you're getting downloads from a creator sounds crazy and inspiration. But you know, for me, it's just a part of the mystery of what's here. And I really love learning what other people have experienced. And ultimately, if it leads you towards what truth is, and if it is the Lord Jesus who says he is the way, the truth, and the life, and it's the path, I picture the Bible as if it's glowing bright like a neon yellow 24/7, whether it's sunny out or dark, that this book is just a divine and holy book. And we might not fully understand what holy means when you break it down to how it's encoded. What are the Easter eggs? What are the messages? Was it figurative or literal? Did it have historically give us our history as humanity? I mean, I personally find that it's really comforting to think that it was our personal history of humanity, and it's the story of good and evil that we are in the middle of, or maybe closer towards the end, in the regard of when does just the peace on earth begin. You know, I think there's so many topics that I could try to extract from your insight to push this narrative forward, but it's just kind of cool to hear that this has given you so much of your time and energy, because ultimately other people maybe haven't stumbled upon it yet, you know, just like there could be things that still surprise you. Or and I guess that would be a question is, are there things that are kind of surprising you as this journey has unfolded that you continue to get excited about within?
Yeah, I mean, pretty much all the time, you know, there's like, it's, because every time I get to do a new chapter or something like that, like even if I've read it before or obviously had that sort of thing, it's like every time I go to it, it's like, it's almost like it's brand new to me. So it's like super exciting. Like I'll spend, on every sermon, I'll tend to spend like 2-3 days just preparing for it, which basically means I'm spending 2-3 days on a single Bible chapter, you know? And it's just like, it's completely immersed, you know? And when you say it's like this, like a yellow neon sign that's always sort of drawing us to it, I would say that's a pretty good analogy, almost like a magnet. Like for some reason, even though I was not reared as a Christian, I wasn't taught any of this stuff. I was kind of a shit kicking, like almost like atheist kid, even though I wasn't really atheist or whatever. I didn't really have any thoughts, but for some reason, every time that I was just like opening myself up to say, okay, I just want truth. Just bring me what I'm supposed to do. It was always like, zzz, like here. Then when I got there and I was completely open to whatever God was going to bring me. Then the insights and revelations that I was getting from it, then when I would show that to other people, for people, there's been, and I've had this happen a lot, dude, people that have been in churches their entire lives have known these stories. They grew up with them. They knew them like the back of their hand. They had to read the Bible. They went to CCD class, right? And they never understood any of them. They couldn't, what parable of the sower, what the fuck does Ezekiel's wheels mean? What is Revelation? What is this weird stuff in Genesis, that sort of stuff? Then they came to our channel, and I explained it through the ways that we do. And next thing you know, it's like, oh my God, that makes so much sense. That's like, finally, it's just like a flat earth thing. You were spinning on your globe your entire life, and you were taught all these things, and none of it made any sense to us, did it? We're supposed to be spinning, and the sun's over there. That's just, that never really made any logical sense. Then you got put on the flat earth. The next thing you know, all the lights started going on, right? That's what happened for most of us anyway.
Yeah.
As far as I can tell, for the people that come to the church, it's pretty much the same thing with the Bible, or what we're doing with that. It's basically giving people a completely different perspective on what they're reading, and actually answering for them, what do these stories mean? What do those weird numbers mean? You know? And that's what we do.
Well, and is there maybe an example you can give it? I don't know how much time that it would take, and I don't want to assume that it can be super quick and wrapped up. And we do have some time left on the show. Is there a cool kind of just anecdote that you could share? Maybe Jonah and the whale, or something?
Yeah. Let's do it. Okay, let's talk about Genesis. Okay, so first off, Genesis. Let's do a few things here. The Genesis gives you the story of God created the world in 6 days and rested on a seventh, right? So this fundamental template is basically 6 resting on 7, okay? And you actually see this in other creation stories too. In fact, I'm just doing the Cherokee story of creation. They have the exact same motif. In the beginning was darkness, waters, there was wind that was over the waters, and then there was a 7-day creation story. So, but when you actually look at that fundamental template, that's a geometric and mathematical template. That's 6 around 1. And what it is the fundamental mathematics. That's you. It's up, down, left, right, forward, and reverse that rests on a center point. So if you were going to go create any sort of 3-dimensional graphics, a CGI, any of that sort of stuff, what you would have to do is first establish your XYZ coordinates before you could build anything, right? This is the most basic geometry you could do, the most basic CAD programming you could do. That's exactly what Genesis is giving you mathematically and geometrically in that story. Then, so that's just one little thing, okay? Then you go beyond the fact that the first line gives you what, as I said in that one video, the entire experience of your cosmology. In the beginning, God created the heaven, upstairs, the immaterial, the incorporeal, the spirit, and downstairs, the matter, which is earth. And that's the earthly, material plane. So that's in line 1. So not only in the first line did they give you the exact parameters, which as far as I could tell, most flat earthers had no idea about, that that's immaterial and this is material, that's in line 1. Then you finish that whole thing in the creation, then leading to man. And what is it? It's 6 around 1. You go a little bit further in Genesis, and what do you have? You have the story of Adam and Eve and a serpent. Those are constellations that are right above in our dome, right? On our flat stationary plane. On the top of the dome is a little star called the pole star, right? Polaris, the North Star. Around that center star in which everything revolves. Everything revolves around that star. In Genesis, in the Bible, in old drawings of it, they just straight up show you that pole star is where God is. They'll just show you the earth, they show you flat, they show you the deep, they show you the dome, and then they put God right where the pole star is. Right where that pole star is, the top of the heaven, is 2 constellations called Cepheus and Cassiopeia, and another constellation called Draco. Cepheus and Cassiopeia are a king and a queen, and Draco is a big serpent. So, and this all exists at the very, very top of our dome. So now in Genesis, when you're given a story about the progeny of all mankind, Adam and Eve, a king and queen, if you will, and a big old serpent, well, these are all astrological coordinates. This is celestial stories. Now, what's funny about this is that that's just the Bible. Now, what you can do is take this celestial template and go to other cultures, and you can see that, guess what? They have a lot of the same stories too. In fact, the idea that many cultures have actually started with a fallen woman, like they do in the Ojibwe, or they start with a pair of twins, or a brother and sister, that sort of thing, is replete. There's a ton of that have that. central dragons that become sort of the figure to not only that deceives mankind, but also that you're supposed to overcome. That's called Uktena in the Cherokee. That's what I'm doing right now. It's called Jormungandr in the Norse mythology. I mean, they're like, so what you can see going on here is that every single one of these religious texts have used the pattern of the stars above to tell their stories. And that's just one example. Now just keep going as we do. And it's every chapter. It's every chapter. It's like, okay, here's the star, here's constellation, here it is, here's where they are. And you can actually start making sense. And the beautiful thing about this, I don't mean to rant, but the beautiful thing about this is that you can walk outside, and if you understand your stars, you can see the biblical stories right above you. Those stories are right there. And it's this amazing, beautiful thing that gives you this fantastic connection to your stars above and the actual patterns of the stars and all of that sort of stuff. As far as I can tell, that a general understanding and education has been completely ripped out of most people's minds. So.
Well, it's very cool. I feel like it's another layer of the mind of our creator. And, I think I can see why some people might not be able to picture it right off the bat, but that's, again, we're going to continue to be surprised. I think that's the theme of tonight's and this whole final experiment and things that are going to keep pushing forward, and that Marty is just working in that way to keep us learning how complex and beautiful and intricate and really wondrous this earth is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what are you working on now, Marty? You got any big projects in the works?
Yeah, well, actually, we just actually did a year in review of last year, where we talked about everything we did last year, and then we projected in this next year. So we're looking at doing a children's book, hopefully. We have another book coming out called The 12 Disciples of the Zodiac, where I basically go and deconstruct every disciple of Jesus and their proper astrological correlations. So of the 12 houses of the Zodiac. So Thomas, for instance, is Gemini, because Thomas means twin. You know what I mean? That sort of thing. You can go to whatever, John or Matthew and that sort of thing. And you can go with, oh, that's Aquarius, that's Leo, that sort of thing. Then we're actually going into the 12 tribes of Israel and explaining how those are all the 12 houses of the Zodiac as well, and constellational. And then as well talk about the Zodiac man, which is basically where the constellations are on the human body. And that's a necessary sort of motif or whatever that you need to know in order to understand the biblical story. So that's one thing that we're going to do hopefully in the next couple months. And then we're also going to put out a poetry and prayer book hopefully in the next 2 months, something like that as well. And then I'm working on a bunch of edited videos and then sort of a mini documentary on the Cherokee story of creation, and then I think the Ojibwe story of creation. And then, yeah, we've just got a bunch of different stuff coming up this year, like another children's book, possibly another documentary, it looks like. So lots of stuff going on.
Out of all the Native American tribes, why did you choose Cherokee?
I used to research when I was a lot younger. I was really interested in like a lot of the Native American stuff, so I researched a bunch of it. But then when I did sermons, a lot of times what I like to do is actually just go through sort of the mythos or whatever religious structure of some particular people, whether that's the Ojibwe or the Cherokee, or we've done the Mayans, that sort of thing. So I just did that. So we just go through, we basically do what I'm doing with the Bible. We go through and they give their elements of their creation story. And then we just go and say, okay, here's the big buzzard in the sky that the Cherokee are talking about. Who's that? Well, that is Cygnus. That's the big bird in the sky that's in the Milky Way. Okay, here they have a dragon called Uktena. Who's that? Oh, that's right next to him because that's Draco. So you can see that the exact same way that they built their cosmology, their religious stories, is the exact same thing in the Bible. So.
And I like thinking about it that way because ultimately, if we're talking about one creator and he knows all of us and created all of us, then all these different cultures do come from it as well. And maybe that's the way that it can be, God can be known to other people who are from the past and didn't have maybe the access to the Bible at the time. And I just think that being closed-minded in this time is kind of detrimental. So being open to what you're saying, and I want to make sure that we shout out, where can people find you before we close out? So that way they can kind of dive in and see what you've uncovered and look for themselves.
GnosticAcademy.org is the best place. And then we do service every Sunday at 9 a.m. Central Standard Time on Rockfin Rumble and YouTube. And so it's usually about 2-3 hour sermon, and we go pretty extensive. You know, like I said, I pretty much prepare for it all week, kind of thing. And so it's like hyper analytical. We spend a lot of time. I mean, it's like an intense Bible study is essentially what it is. And yeah, every Sunday, and I release videos during the week and stuff like that. So
yeah, and somebody in the chat said that the fourth book of the Bible is called Numbers. Yeah, does that book in particular tie into what you're talking about in any way that you've come across?
Yeah, well, I mean, the book of Numbers itself tells you that something, you know, it's one of the 5 books of Moses. So it's like, okay, well, Numbers must have something to do with this, right? It's interesting because in the book of Numbers, too, it's like, I think even in, you could probably check it. It's like, well, here, hold on. I could just give you it. It says, sorry, give me a second here. It says, take ye the sum of all the congregation of the children of Israel. This is Numbers 1:2. Take ye the sum of all the congregation of the children of Israel after their families by the house of their fathers, comma, with the number of their names, every male by their polls. What is the number of your name, DJ Curious?
I don't know for sure.
Well, I guess you would have to know gematria in order to understand that, wouldn't you?
There you go. See, this is what I was hoping. Let's get to the, like, what are your best proofs that we should pay attention?
Well, I mean, yeah, I mean, the Bible's got all sorts of, I mean, there's gems all through that thing, as you know. So, but as far as like relating the notion that there's, you know, that these mystical subjects are in there, there's another one too that says, I think it's in the book of John we just covered, maybe chapter 6 or something, but it says something like that Jesus knew his letters. I think it's something like that, right? Well, what does that mean? Does that mean that Jesus knew how to read? Well, of course Jesus knew how to read, right? No one's questioning that. So what does it mean that Jesus knew his letters? This is a subtle reference to the fact that what they're referencing is exactly what they're referencing in the Old Testament, exactly how the rabbis of the Old Testament say that the Old Testament is written mathematically. Then in the New Testament it says, "Oh, Jesus, what you know?" I forget what the line is. Something like about letters. It's like, okay, well, what are they referencing? It's either they're asking whether Jesus knows how to read, or possibly he might know some mysticism about language and numbers. So, you know, these are the things that are extremely slyly and cryptically encoded in there. And according to the wisdom tradition that we follow, that's exactly how it's done. It's specifically done this way. They even teach you why it's done this way, how it's done this way, that sort of thing. So there's that. But
I love it.
So DJ, you overwhelmed? Is this what you were expecting?
Like I'm not smart enough for this conversation entirely.
Oh, don't sell yourself short.
Honestly, I will, let me say this, because if you do get into it, like there's some shorter videos and things like that can start to help you wrap your mind around it. Like it's just like anything. Like once you cross, like, you know, once you plateau and like understand it for a while and things like that, you'll start to intuit it. You know, for most people, they've never heard of this stuff. It's all new. They don't know what to think about it. But then when you actually see it, like when you see the cipher being built, and you could see all the mathematical constants that are encoded in it that are absolutely 100% verifiable. No one can even come close to challenging that they're in there, because it's the most basic math you could possibly do. If you're an elementary student and know, you know, adding, subtracting, multiplying, dividing, you can find the very mathematical constants that are encoded in our language. Period. Full stop. I'll say that to any mathematician ever. And once you actually go through that and understand it, it actually is really simple. It's not complex. The problem, the complexity comes from not having any relationship to it, not having any reference to it. It's just like with flat Earth. We thought in a solar system model. Then when we had to rethink that, we had to throw all that out and start at square one and then build from there. It's going to be no different with what I'm presenting here. So a lot of times people hear that and it just goes over their head, or it's too much for me, or I'm not smart enough. That's not the case at all.
Well, and you know, I just mean that in the sense of I want to ask you the right questions that can help, you know, set you up to explain it best. You know, I'm not Barbara Walters over here. It's just I'm on a Flat Earth podcast without any training. But my point is, like, how does this give you insights into other things? Like a lot of people associate astrology with predicting the future. Would you say that that's how would that just differentiate itself from that?
Oh, no, we don't. Actually, we just did a whole series called Not for Kids Only, where we actually talked about all the misnomers about astrology, divination, how that's a totally poo-pooed. It's not about at all about like predicting future or anything like that. That's not what astrology is about at all. So we actually just did about 3 hours, maybe 2 months ago, something like that, specifically on that topic, you know. So, yeah, anyway, as far as like how has it helped my own understanding and things like that? Well, I would just say this. What the last flat earth video that I just did is one of the proofs in saying that, look, this stuff actually will help you understand where you are in your creation. Because this is stuff that I'm saying, hey guys, this has been in Genesis 1. I've been talking about it since at least 2017, if not before. And I've been completely consistent about how you actually will experience your cosmology. I didn't come up with that shit. I'm not smart enough to come up with that shit. I learned it from the Bible, and all I did was take it seriously and then actually take it to our lived experience, you know? So that provided all of the insight that you got in that last video, the final experiment in the 24-hour. As I said, I had to essentially do no planning for that because everything I was going to be presenting was things I'd been presenting this entire time. Where is it based off of? Studies of the Bible. Real, I mean, that's why I presented as like, hey, this is Genesis 1 right here. This is our cosmology, guys. So, you know.
Well, it would not surprise me if what you're saying is, you know, something to, like, it's a part of the truth. It's a part of truth is what I'm getting at. It's just another layer of what our creator, the mind of our creator, and how intricate and complex it really is. But it's just more Easter eggs. And I like that Mark was kind of talking about that from the software world. Well, yeah, people love Easter eggs. And so why wouldn't God throw in some fun stuff like that for us to kind of keep being amazed?
Can I say...
No, you're good. You're good. Go ahead.
Just one quick thing. I just want to say the Bible, too, is also it's for everybody, right? It's not just like, oh, it's got all this secret stuff in here only for the people that find the secret stuff. No, I think the Bible is there to relate to everybody in their intelligence level as well as where they are in their spiritual quest. You know, like you could be just a kindergarten in your little spiritual journey, and that Bible is still there for you. And you could be the most advanced geometrician and whatever in the world, and that Bible is still there for him too. You know what I mean? And so this is one of the things that actually makes that document so amazing, because it literally is for anybody at any point of where they are in their spiritual quest. So.
And books of the Bible, are you open to a book like Enoch or any others? I mean, how do you feel, just really quick, on those other, maybe the Apocrypha?
I have them. I don't like study them. We haven't done any sermons on them or anything like that, just because I've been focused on the basically just New and Old Testament.
Okay.
And really just trying to tackle a lot, Noah's Ark, Cain and Abel, Adam and Eve, Ezekiel's wheels. We're going to do Revelation this year. We did Book of Matthew, Book of Mark. We're halfway through the Book of John. You know, so it's been really important for me to focus on the Bible to really hammer home that, look, guys, this is in here. Okay, this is not some crazy kooky flat earther that's just making this shit up. This is not the case. I'm not smart enough to do that. You know, so
Given your love of numbers, if you haven't looked more than a skim into Enoch, I think you'd really dig it, because there are a lot. I mean, it reads, I hate to say it, I understand why it's not canonized, right? It reads like Chinese stereo instructions, because there's a lot of, it reads like a technical manual in some ways, you know, where, you know, Enoch's up there for a long time, and he's like, oh yeah, this is you're like looking behind the curtain. You're looking in, you know, in the upper rafters of the stage. It's like, oh yeah, that's where the snow is. That's where the rain is. There's a certain number of angels. This is all, you know, it's like, this is why all these things happen on the ground, because of this stuff up here. And it's fascinating. So if you get a chance, you might want to poke around.
Yeah. Just a few points too. Like Enoch is allegedly the seventh from Adam, right? And and Enoch was known as the angel Metatron, right? Well, Metatron in Greek gematria equals 314, which is pi. It's the numbers of pi. Well, 7 in English encodes pi. So it's like, so here's this mathematical constant that's encoded in our alphabet. It's a cornerstone, a necessity in pretty much any sort of math you do. And here these things are encoded in the names of God. And once again, that's not just like an opinion. Like if you go to the ancient Hebrew, you can absolutely see that the 5 digits of pi are encoded in Elohim. That El Shaddai, the name El Shaddai, encodes not only pi, but also the Pythagorean formula. It's not even a question. So it's like, how is it that we've got this far that we don't know that stuff is in there? How did it get lost? That sort of stuff. That's been sort of my journey, is trying to recover a lot of that and show why it's so important. So.
Yeah, we've been down. Well, go ahead, Mark.
The paradox of, one, most people hate math. We see that time and time again. But at the same time, the good news is that most people love a mystery. Human beings are almost designed to be drawn to mystery. And so we look, if there's a thread, people are pulling on it. Doesn't matter if there's logic behind it or not. It's like they're pulling on it, which I love, which is why I still have hope for the human race.
Yeah. Absolutely.
How much time we got left? Yeah, we got to wrap this thing up. Marty, it's been a wonderful having you on here. Do you have any closing remarks? Any last words of wisdom you wanted to impart to our audience?
No, just thanks, guys, and everybody be chill. I can't believe how everybody's freaking out. Just chill out, man. And me saying to chill out isn't exposing me as a shill. It's just literally saying chill out, guys.
Right. I am hoping that I'm gonna take a page from DJ's book on this one. I am hoping by the time we get to the conference in Georgia in September, cross my fingers, everything should be going fine, that we can all have a drink about this. Stop calling me, whoever's calling me. That we can have a drink on this and laugh and be like, wow, kind of jumped the gun on that one. Because I condemn nobody in our community. I give everybody the benefit of the doubt. I have seen nothing suspicious. And remember, I've been accused of being an agent for 10 years. And last time I found out, I haven't worked for an agency in some time. Anyway, so Friday, we are going to have, just so you guys know, just a quick reminder, we're doing a special Strange World. We're going to have Brian's Logic channel from the UK. He is going to be piped in from Ireland, and it's going to be 3 a.m., so give him a break when he comes in from 3 a.m. his side. It'll be still normal time, our time. And other than that, we'll be here next week. Same flat time, same flat channel.
Yep.
Say goodnight, Patricia. Good night. Say good night, DJ.
Good night, Strange World. Marty, that was very interesting. I can't wait to kind of dive in a little bit more. And I still have so many questions. My last question I didn't get to ask was, how does this all point towards the Lord Jesus Christ being the creator? Are you able to give us a quick snippet there?
Can you do that in 60 seconds or less?
Yeah, I mean, the whole thing does. Actually, one of the great mysteries is that you'll find that this is why I wrote that 550-page book on Christ, because at the end of this, what you'll find out is it all points to him. Everything,
right.
Your hands, your cosmology, everything. And that's the great revelation that was like, whoa, that was, for me, that's what took it to the next level. So.
All right. Super interesting stuff, guys. Okay. Well, hey, Patricia, we missed you tonight, but Marty, that was really fun. Thank you again.
Thank you, guys. Thank you very much.
Thank you. We're gonna go to the slideshow breaks. Stay with me for three and a half minutes while the song plays.
And Happy New Year out there, guys.
Oh yeah, sorry. Happy New Year, everybody. It's 2025 on the East Coast already.
I think it's officially 2025, right?
Yeah.
On the East Coast.
Oh, he's got his 2025 glasses. Very nice.
Oh yeah, have a little fun on this show.
Anyway, stay with us for 3.5 minutes. You're just going to see the slideshow, Marty. Good night, everybody. Hot sex.
Good night, Strange World. Love you guys.
How long our lovers stay.
there's ever been. Wound up chasing stars all over again. There's words for what you got, what you have, and what you'll ever need. There's love so many nights, so many nights, so many ways to believe.
Paige needs to get into her PJs with her cup of cocoa and her 6 marshmallows. Night, Mark.
Mike Jack. Jack.
You realize it's the same link every week. It never changes.
Yeah, I know. I should paste it somewhere, I think.